Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Relix, and to start off this video, first of all, I'm going to say that it's been a while since I've put out video, so if you guys are, watching as I'm putting these things out, thank you for tuning in. I'm sorry that I've been a little off on the content. I made a community post yesterday, or rather early this morning, stating where I've been, what I've been doing, and what's to come. So if you guys haven't seen it, go check it out. And if you guys are just watching this, just out of, you guys are new to the channel, thank you for watching, and I hope you guys enjoy, and go check out my other content as well. Overall, let's get started. So today we're going to discuss episode 10 of season 7 of My Hero Academia, and this one was another interesting episode. I would say personally this is probably my least favorite episode of the entire season so far. Again, 10 episodes in now, you're gonna have some bad ones, and I get that, so there's no fault there, really. Now this episode does have some interesting stuff to talk about, to discuss, has some interesting quirks involved, characters, and a few good scenes. Actually, I actually enjoyed some of the scenes, but some of the other scenes throughout the entire episode were lackluster, you can say, or in my opinion, not needed. At least that's what I think. But we'll get into that. So again, this is a spoilers review, so if you guys have not watched the episode, please feel free to skip ahead or skip the entire video until you've seen it. As for the people who have been here, as again, if you guys can see here on the screen, Endeavor is my hero of the episode. Could have been, I think, 3. I would have chosen 3 individual people for hero of the episode, but overall I think Endeavor not just had the more screen time, but he had the most to do with what happened throughout the entire episode. Now, if you guys know what happened, you guys know that Endeavor technically did not beat All For One, and therefore technically choosing him as the hero of the episode is kind of counterproductive. One could say that technically there's only someone else away from the Gunga Villa that technically would have been the hero of the episode. I'll get into that later, but one would say that Endeavor or Hawks could have been heroes of the episode. But in any case, let's get into the episode real quick. So we start off with a recap, because we did skip a week. I believe, I don't remember the reason why we skipped a week, but we did. So now we get a small recap of what happened in the last episode. And to end episode 9, we remember All For One had this giant quirk cannon that was pointed towards Tsukuyomi and Earphone Jack, and it did shoot. But thanks to the efforts of Hawks, the cannon missed and barely grazed him. However, Earphone Jack did lose one of her ears, and that, I thought for sure that might play a significant role in this episode or whatever it was to follow. However, I'm a little disappointed because it did not. In 0%, it did not even affect Earphone Jack. Yes, she lost an ear. However, she was still able to do her job. And so we start off the episode with her basically saying that even though All For One is saying that she's weak, he's taunting her to saying that she doesn't belong there and all that stuff, he still underestimates her, and she's, while crying of course, but she yells at him that it is his fault. He is the main bad guy. He is the reason why his friends, specifically Aoyama and Midoriya, are crying, why their lives are hard and depressing and difficult on themselves because of this guy. And so she takes it upon herself to continue fighting regardless that she lost one of her ears, and uses her quirk to nullify or I forget specifically what it was. There's supposed to be something about his mask, All For One's mask, and that's the whole objective, is to try and destroy the mask. That way he can't sustain himself. At least that's the idea here. We mentioned it in the last video how they went over, All For One's weakness, and he needs life support from this mask. So that's part of her job, is to help nullify that mask. And regardless that her quirk is like, I guess you can say at half strength now, All For One cannot counterattack her because he has a quirk rebellion on his side. This is one of those key points in this episode that I'm a little bit not a fan of, because at no point has this ever shown to be a thing in the past. All For One is being rebelled by his own quirks that he has stolen, and the will of these people's quirks are trying to hold him back. They will not obey his command, and they are preventing him from defending himself against Earphone Jack. And so I'm not... He even states that this has never happened before, and the result of this is probably because he's given away so many quirks that the ones he's kept, I guess they're copies of quirks. So I mean, someone somewhere else has these quirks, but these are all copies, and they're not as strong and, willing to work for him as much as if he had the original. At least that's what I got from the episode. And so this is one of those moments where it never showed that this would ever happen. And for that reason, I think this is a very weak plot point. I think this is just way too convenient for the heroes. And in the end, this allows Hawks to come in and lay an attack on All For One. If you guys remember from the previous episode, Hawks has been able to get a couple strikes in with his sword, his feather sword. As we see in the top right corner, the picture shows that it has a small dent in it. And that dent is enough for Hawks to now allow himself to strike true and break the mask apart with the help of Earphone Jack's vibration momentum. So with that extra momentum, he does slice through the mask, breaking off a piece of it, exposing All For One's face, which he doesn't really have a face. Let's get that right. And in doing so, the quirks are still rebelling. They're not allowing him to fight. And here comes Dark Shadow with his smash attack and completely destroys the mask. We see here Earphone Jack has jumped off, and Dark Shadow and Tsukuyomi smashed through All For One's face. You can see pieces of the broken mask on the screen and throughout the wording. And then, of course, there's Hawks in the background, using his feathers to keep Earphone Jack in the air. And so, this is great. The heroes are going to win, or at least that's the thought behind this. And, well, that's never going to be the case, of course. Why would two kids be the ones to really help destroy All For One? It's not going to be enough. We'll be honest here. So I personally, watching this, I thought there's no way this is the end. This is kind of just foreplay for whatever's to come next. And of course, that's where All For One actually mentions that he should have been able to dodge the attack, but his senses were not working. He has to rely on these things to basically predict when things are happening. As we know, his whole body, his face is, it's all deteriorated. I don't really know what happened, to be honest. I don't remember if they mentioned in the anime that what happened to his face. Obviously, whatever battle he and All Might had in the past, that was probably the result of why he has no face anymore. But because of that, his senses are numb. He can't see. I'm assuming he can't hear. He's got no ears. He can't touch. He can't smell. It's things like that. He's missing some of his senses. That's why he has quirks for these. And he does state that with these extra quirks, he is able to perceive more than a normal human would be able to. But because the quirks are rebelling, he can't protect himself, and that's why he's being defeated right now. But of course, in fine fashion, again, this is why I don't think the quirks rebelling should have played a part in the first place, is he just says, okay, that's enough. I'm going to eat these guys. Wah. This is internally. This is in his internal mind right now. He is literally going all out, pushing the rebel quirks away, and just, I guess he's eating them. I don't know. It's really weird. I thought it was a funny scene. I mean, look at that face. But, again, this is one of those weak points. So, why introduce that you can actually stop these quirks from rebelling in the first place, and with ease, no less. Why even show that? Just skip that whole part and just skip to the next part, which is where he actually unleashes his I don't know what to call this quirk again. I don't even know what to call this thing, but this webby like quirk that shoots sharp projectiles from his body. He's able to shoot it out, recover the pieces of his mask, and repair his mask right there and then. How is it being repaired? Who knows? It's just an anime. I'm not going to get into details about that specifically, but in doing this, unleashing his quirk again, Endeavor actually came into the way and protected everybody from the attack. You guys can see in the bottom right picture, Tsukuyomi and Hawks and Earphone Jack are all together. In fact, Hawks was going to protect the kids from being attacked with his backside facing All For One, but of course Endeavor came in and saved the day. In doing so, he lost one of his arms, his right arm specifically. You guys can see in the top right picture, it is being ripped apart, and that is one of the keys to this episode that I'm like, okay, Endeavor is going to eventually die, and he needs to go out in a blaze of glory. And I think to myself, okay, this is turning out okay, I guess. I was questioning about the quirks rebelling, but this is fine. All is well. We get the action, we get the sacrifice, and that's what I want to see. So overall, it continues to move on to the story. We get to see how did Endeavor get back up on his feet, because as we saw in the past couple episodes, he was down and out, he was injured, he was crippled, and struggling to find his strength to stand up. He did lose a chunk of his side from his last attack against All For One, and therefore he's bleeding out. How does he get up? So in this picture here, we see that he is struggling to talk with himself, struggling to believe in himself, in what he's doing. At least that's what I'm understanding from what I saw. And then we get a flashback to his younger days when he was still a kid. He got to see his father die in the line of duty, trying to protect a girl, as he states. However, his father died and the girl died as well. There's nothing they could do apparently in that situation, and they both died, and that left a shocking, or I should say traumatizing memory for him in his past. Hence the reason why he went into hero work. I'm believing that's his father's death inspired him to become a hero, and it inspired his name Endeavor. And then of course we went into even more flashbacks, how his jealousy for All Might being the number one hero and him being number two left to him being upset, depressed, angry, all these emotions that are just bottled up inside of him. And not to mention his other family problems that we have come to know from the Todoroki family. And that just, everything just comes out, all of his anger just bottles up inside and then releases on whoever, really upsets him. And it just causes him to not be the hero that he truly wanted to be. And especially with the incident with Dabi, and him being his son, and of course now the whole world knows that and all that stuff, that just adds to the multiple things that he has to live with in his life, and that eventually in turn leads to his rage coming out. And this is where, again, it's an anime, it's just a show, I get it, but this is it. This is his final stroke of power, and I was like, okay, after this, Endeavor will die, and I will be satisfied with how he goes out in a blaze of glory. He musters up the strength and puts his regrets aside. And at least that's what I got from this scene here. He is strangling himself, strangling his past, putting that aside and focusing everything in the moment and the future now. His job right now is to defeat All For One. And so we get to see him rise up, obviously, and go defend the three in the air, and obviously losing an arm. and we get to see him, raise from that arm that he just lost a fist, a flaming fist. And with that flaming fist, he launches his attack at All For One, sending him flying through the sky. Obviously not a huge distance, but regardless, it sends him through the sky a little bit, putting distance between them. And unfortunately, there is a shield quirk that All For One has, and he does use it. It is not the same quirks that we saw in the last episode, but it is something that just blocks, I guess, all damage, and therefore All For One was actually perfectly safe. But with this power, this attack, we get some stunned faces from Hawks, Earphone Jack, and Tsukuyomi. And I find it kind of funny because, like, they shouldn't be too shocked. Like, their faces look in shock, like shock and awe. And I think to myself, Hawks, don't worry about them. Go help Endeavor, just go help him. That's your job. You're the next best hero here. You got to go and do what needs to be done. But instead, he's just kind of staring. And I find it kind of funny because I'm like, you don't really think about the couples too much during this war arc, but I think these two make a nice couple, Tsukuyomi and Earphone Jack. Similar vibes, but obviously their teamwork is showing here, and I think that's kind of cute. So we also get another view of Endeavor's wounds after he launched that attack. You guys can see the chunk of his side is still missing. It is being, I don't know, the flame is, helping the, close the wound, I guess. I'm not sure. He better not regenerate his side, because that'd be a little ridiculous. And then, of course, he lost his arm, which is steaming from the attack. Again, I don't want to see his arm always be a weapon, because that's the whole point of you having a physical arm and not just a quirk made up arm. And it's a little disappointing to see that he's able to still use that arm as his main arm, his main attacking arm. However, we do get this cool pose, which leads to a imitation of what All Might has done in the past. When All For One was fighting him, All Might held his fist up and basically says that he's going to beat him. Endeavor does the exact same pose, which I think is pretty cool, because it does show that, all heroes are alike. They stand up to the villains and they will fight until the end with all of their power. And I think this is a pretty cool moment for Endeavor, because he's putting aside his jealousy and living up to his rank as #1 hero in the current day, just like All Might did in the past. And then, of course, he launches another attack. This time, you guys can see within the yellow behind his back, there is some black, figures in there. Those are Hawks' feathers. So Hawks is now refusing to take part directly in the combat. I'm believing it's because his sword broke when he broke the mask off of All For One. But he is still able to use his feathers to speed up Endeavor's momentum in the air, therefore catching All For One off guard, hence leading to the next cool scene, which is another big fist, flaming fist, that smashes All For One directly into the ground, regardless that there are heroes and villains on the ground fighting each other. They even throw in some funny lines for, like, I think it was Kamui and some of the other generic heroes on the ground, saying that wasn't part of the plan, but it's not Endeavor he hasn't finished his attack yet. This is all part of a link of attacks that he will be doing. So he smashes All For One into the ground, and then this leads to the next scene where I'm kind of a little bit disappointed. Again, just like the quirks rebelling against All For One, and it really didn't have to happen. This is another scene where All For One's being dragged away by Endeavor, and I'm like, why is he dragging him away? Like, why is he grinding him against the ground, smashing him through the boulder and going through a forest? And then I'm like, this isn't necessary. He could have just launched, instead of smashing him into the ground, you could have at least smashed him away again, because the whole impact didn't actually matter. He still broke through All For One's shield and was able to grab him, and therefore getting close to him, which would lead to the next attack after this. What we do get to see in this scene, however, is All For One thinks that, he's not helpless, and Endeavor is now close in hand. He can now use his quirk, or his arm, to steal Endeavor's quirks, or a quirk, I should say, single quirk, and Endeavor notices that and roasts his hand. And I'm like, oh, okay, fantastic. Well, at least the scene wasn't entirely pointless, except for the fact of what he does later. So here we go, and he, by the way, he has laser heat flaming eyes, that can roast his hand. But he the final setup is he pulls him up, drags him back into the sky, and is preparing for his final attack. And we also got to see, up close, he wraps his entire body around All For One. So I guess in the sense that he dragged him away, yes, we needed to see that he needed to get rid of the hand that would steal Endeavor's quirk, but I think Endeavor could have did that regardless in the sky. So I still think it's pointless that he had to drag him through the ground and saw that. And then, of course, we get to see a reflection of Endeavor talking about what he's fighting for, what he's trying to do, what he's trying to make up for. And then we get this really awesome scene here where we see Todoroki, he's fighting for his son and his future, as well as the future generation of heroes. And now I'm looking at this picture and I'm like thinking to myself, that is an interesting portrayal of the characters of Class 1A. We get to see Todoroki, obviously, in the very bottom. We get to see Bakugo, Deku, Gravity, Ingenium. Floppy isn't actually in the top left there. You could hardly see him. I don't know who's in the top center. And then there's Krejci and Red Riot. So we get to see them. But however, I'm looking at this and I'm like, that doesn't look exactly like them. Obviously, this picture for me, I did not take this picture and morph it together. It was a vertical scene. I used my camera to do a panoramic picture of this. That's how I get most of my pictures for the videos. I'm looking at this and I'm like, that's not their normal, some of them at least, that's not some of their normal outfits. And if you look at them, especially like Todoroki, they look older. And so I'm like thinking to myself, holy crap, this is a really cool scene. You can actually tell that Red Riot's outfit's a little bit different. He has this big cape on his back. Krejci, her back is actually totally exposed. This picture actually doesn't showcase that very well. And then, of course, everyone else looks a bit taller. And Ingenium's a little bit, bigger. And, of course, like I said, Todoroki looks older. He clearly looks older than he should. Now, I don't know if that's just a design choice, but to me, it looks like they are older, and that's what Endeavor is fighting for. That he is fighting for these kids to be the next pro heroes in the next few years, kind of thing. And that's what he is now fighting for. That is what he's going to sacrifice his life to do, and put all of his attack, or all of his, all of this energy into this final attack. So I just thought that was kind of cool. I thought this was one of the best scenes of the entire episode. At least to me, it felt like this is what they were going to look like. And who knows, maybe this is a foreshadow as well. Could these, was it 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? Could these 9 figures here in this scene be 100% survivors in the future? Who knows? This could be a foreshadow for who survives. Obviously, spoiler alert for that. But either way, I thought it was a really cool scene. And so we get the final attack after he lifts All For One in the air. Prominence Burn, Endeavor's most powerful and final attack in his arsenal. And it completely, shines through the sky, burning All For One in his grasp to a crisp. And we also get to see some of the generic heroes and villains looking up, the other heroes in the sky looking at it. Like, they're just staring at it. And I'm like, it's probably as bright as the sun. You probably shouldn't be looking at it. In any case, really cool scene here. I love it. I love the Prominence Burn attack that Endeavor uses. I think it's a really cool final move in his arsenal compared to most other heroes and most other, action anime that I've watched. I think this is one of the cooler attacks. And so, Here's the result of his attack. He is still holding on to All For One's body, which is now deteriorating into ash, as well as is just completely burned to a crisp. There's no way he should have survived it. Honestly, there's 100% no way he should have survived this. And then we get the spoiler of the episode, which is why, in a sense, Endeavor could not be the hero of the episode, but he is because of all these cool scenes. And the fact that All For One is like laughing at this. He's in a ghastly, deathly voice. He is telling Endeavor that did you think this is it? Did you think I didn't come into this battle prepared? And we get this quick scene of Eddie and I believe the injection things that she was making with her quirk. Now, what we've seen in the past is it takes away quirks. We've seen these bullet projectiles. I'm not sure what they are exactly, but these injection things that Eri made with her quirk, we've seen that they can steal quirks away. And so that's what I thought would happen here, because that's what happened to Lemillion, and that's what happened to Eraserhead, and so on. So I thought for sure, I was like, oh, that means Endeavor's gonna lose his quirk then, I'm assuming. But that doesn't explain what happens to All For One. Like, he's dead. He should be dead. But as you guys can see in this left picture, actually, this was taken after he showed after the show showed Eri and the injection thing. So it's not because he used the thing on Endeavor, in fact. And we get to see Endeavor's face here in the next scene right after. He's like in shock that All For One is still alive. How is he alive? And we get to see this, which is quite creepy. You guys saw in the thumbnail. This ghastly looking deathly figure is All For One. And he stated earlier that heroes are pretty scary when they're wounded, but villains are also scariest when wounded. And after mentioning Eri's quirk injection thingy that steals quirks, I also remembered that Eri's quirk not just steals, it's not so much as it steals the quirk away, it reverts people back to a point where they wouldn't have it as well. So in this case, it has healing powers, and it only works on humanoids. So All For One used it. I am thinking he used it on himself and is now regenerating his body. This is his ace in the hole. This is his hidden trump card that no one saw coming. That he had this injection thing coming, or in his pocket, that he could have used at any moment to regenerate his body. So all this time, while he's been carrying around life support and all that stuff and having all these other quirks, he also had this up his sleeve to try and return his body back to a state where he was powerful. And we see this because his ear on the left side, or right side of the picture, but his left ear regenerated the moment we see this scene. And as I mentioned before, he didn't have ears, right? It was just a mouth on a wrinkly old head, just a mouth. But now there's an ear, we have eye sockets, a nose, a mouth. It's all there. And as it continues on in this scene, which I didn't get the picture for, we actually see an eyeball regenerate as well. And so I'm like, what the heck is happening? And because of that, I'm thinking to myself, does this mean he is going to steal Endeavor's quirk once he fully regenerates from this attack? Because that means his full body is going to regenerate. As we can see, the ear doesn't look like it was burned like it was before. Is he going to be reverted back to a state where he fought All Might in the past, where he can now steal quirks again? We don't know. We have to find out. This is where half the episode ended, and we moved on to the next scene. So overall, I thought that first half was a little weak, a little bit redundant as far as what happened throughout the episode. Could have probably just skipped a few things, but it was still cool to see the action sequences. And again, Endeavor is a really cool hero. I don't deny that. top 10 heroes and my favorite heroes, but I think it was a little bit weaker than the past episodes or the past action scenes we've seen in the past. So moving on though, we get to move on to the coffin in the sky, and we get to see what's happening with Tomura and the other heroes. And so here in this picture, I've morphed them all together. We see Mirko. She's her new arm that we saw her gain in the last episode or the episode before that. It is now turned into a machine gun, apparently, of some sort. It can fire projectiles. And while we don't exactly see it actually hitting anything in this episode, that's the idea that I'm getting, that it's literally shooting bullets at the arms. So that's my thought, which I think is kind of cool, but at the same time, it just goes against what she represents, and that's just brute force. So a little bit redundant again. I don't see the bullets ever hitting anything. And then you see Best Genius on the middle left. Just he can't do anything, so he's just kind of avoiding, and he's also telling everyone to stay in motion. As we see on the right, top right, Sun Eater gets whacked. He is struggling against Tomura and his growth. And then we also see in the middle right, Nejire-chan, she also too gets blasted from both sides by the arms, so she also is down, apparently down for the count. Edgeshot uses his quirk to slice apart the arms, but it does regenerate just as fast, and therefore he can't avoid it entirely. He has to keep trying to bear the escape and breaking it apart. And then we see Bakugo obviously flying away and avoiding all of the arms as well. And so again, this is not a quirk. This is not a quirk of Shigaraki. It's his growth, that his body has been augmented to expand like this, and it's quite scary, honestly. And we also get to see him all the while these guys are just running for their lives, trying to figure out what to do. He's like, yeah, I'm going to bring this world to a new era. You guys will soon understand what we mean and all that stuff. He's like literally monologuing while his left arm is literally growing all of these fingers and arms and limbs from his left arm. That's it. It's not his legs, it's not his body, it's his left arm that's doing all of this. The entire coffin in the sky is filled with his growth from one arm. And I think to myself, that's a little ridiculous. And then B, why doesn't he just use one of his legs or his other arm to do things like this? I don't know. It's not really fully explained, but I guess only his left arm was truly augmented to do this, I'm assuming. And so that's what we got. But overall, he is casually just thinking he's won. They can't do anything, and just because he's trapped in the coffin in the sky, he's gonna win. He thinks he's gonna win. He's gonna escape, and the heroes will lose. That's where Bakugo actually comes in, and we get to see that all the moving that he has been doing, all the dodging and stuff, he's been storing up his sweat, and that's what his quirk utilizes, his sweat. And inside all these guns now is his quirk stored up together. This is now, it was just I think it was like a small backpack, but then it expanded into these machine guns, in which the support course helped provide him with the suppressive heavy mobile unit Strafe Panzer. And so he pulls this thing out, and he is preparing for his ultimate move. That is the idea, because he does state later that it was his biggest attack in his arsenal. So we'll see what happens. So not only is he preparing for his final attack, but the top left crew in Mirko, Best Genius, obviously you can't see Best Genius. He's actually the one providing Mirko with that wire to step on. And then, of course, Edgeshot with his quirk. They are preparing for their final attack, but Bakugo also states how, everyone here has their purpose. Everyone here is doing their job to work together as a team. And I thought that was pretty cool because, again, throughout the entire show, we've actually seen Bakugo probably grow the most alongside Midoriya. Obviously, Midoriya is just kind of, he's growing in the sense that he's learning to use his quirks even more. But I think Bakugo, as far as a character is concerned, I think he's had the biggest transformation from start to finish. And overall, I think this is one of those great moments where he's reflecting on what's happening, what happened in the past, and what is he fighting for right now. And just like Endeavor, he's reflecting on who's involved, what's happening, what are we fighting for, and who's giving up who's giving up their best to, help fight the villains. And I thought this was a really cool moment. It showed these scenes one after another. So obviously we got to see the Coffin team in the top left working together. And then we also see Crazy and her quirk repairing the Coffin in the Sky on the ground so that they can step on it and be able to fight. And then bottom left, you see Denki and his team powering the Coffin in the Sky. By the way, I don't remember if she was the specific person we saw in the last few episodes, but the girl on the left, I believe her name was Yu Haya, I think it was, and she's technically their senpai. She's a third year in the hero course. She was actually shown during the pageant, during the festival at UA. I don't remember, but apparently she was there, and I guess her name wasn't mentioned. I'm not sure, but I don't remember. So in any case, she's able to also conduct the electricity for the team, for the Coffin in the Sky. So she's there too. So they're doing their part there. And then of course in the bottom right, Eraserhead, Phantom Thief, and Manuel are doing their part in keeping Tomura from using his quirks. Now again, we're just using growth, that's part of his body, but he's not able to use his decay quirk, which would have destroyed everybody, including killing everybody, because everything touches will decay at the same rate. Therefore, every single person would die in an instant. And so I thought this was a really good sequence of scenes showing the teamwork amongst all of the heroes working together for one goal. And then, of course, it led up to one final moment where, it's basically Tomura versus Bakugo. And we get this really cool, literally gave me Naruto vibes, the bottom picture. It's literally like a Rasengan versus Chidori moment where both characters throw out their hands wide open and clash together, which ended up creating a huge blast. And this blast of lights just came beaming out from the Coffin in the Sky. I find it odd because it technically didn't break the coffin, but this light is just shining through apparently, and it's just blowing away Tomura's arms. We will see later that it actually does that. And we also get to see here that Phantom Thief is trying to keep his eyes open as best he can. I mean, look at this thing. Look at the angle in which we are looking at the Coffin in the Sky, and that thing is blazing bright. There is no way he should ever have kept his eyes open, and yet he is somehow, which is pretty hilarious. Again, this is where I was actually thinking to myself, technically he should be the hero of the episode again, because again, if he blinks once, they are all dead. Straight up. Regardless that Bakugo's attack actually did blow away a lot of Tomura's growth, there is no way he should have kept his eyes open, and yet he did. And so therefore Phantom Thief kind of ironically is like one of the underrated heroes of the episode here. Very few screen times, very little screen time throughout the past few episodes, but always important. He is in fact one of the most important characters in this entire war arc. So let's not underestimate his powers here. So in any case, yeah, he's keeping Tomura at bay. And then of course we get another sidetrack here. We get to see the business course is inside the Coffin in the Sky as well. And I thought to myself, okay, this is another one of those sidetrack plot points that just kind of don't matter to me. I'm sure it will play a part later, And, when it does, it's going to be like huge for the heroes. But at the same time, it took away, 1 or 2 minutes worth of screen time. And I'm like, I don't want to see this. This isn't really necessary. And, the business course, I don't believe they'd have powers. If they do, then it's, they're not showing it. But they are inside the coffin in the sky, recording, broadcasting, or not broadcasting, but recording and documenting everything that's happening, including the battles and the heroes involved. And then this, of course, girl from the support class is like, what are you guys doing here? Stop this. This is not the time. And the guy in the far right is like, yeah, it is. We need to record this for history's sake. And so it's just a quick sidetrack from the main plot here, but it kind of ruins the scene because we just got to see this awesome attack that Bakugo did, and then of course it segues to these guys, and then it literally repeats itself, showing Bakugo again doing the same attack for a few seconds leading up to the end results. And so I thought it was unnecessary, just like in the first half of this episode. A few things unnecessary, but it is what it is. So the result of Bakugo's attack we see here, the growth from Tomura has not disappeared, but it has been destroyed in a matter of speaking, as well as majority of the coffin in the sky is ground and the buildings there as well. The destruction is actually very large scale, and Power Loader was actually concerned that Bakugo may have destroyed the coffin in the sky, but he didn't. So, and by the way, Denki had a moment where he said, "You guys gotta believe in him, because I do," and he knows how to protect his friends. Yeah, well, that kind of wasn't the case though, because again, another redundant scene. I'm happy that he is supporting his friend and believing in Bakugo, but we also got to see this. And we see that Bakugo's arm is now broken. I don't even know what to say with this. It got pulverized by Tomura's arm. In their clash, apparently, he grabbed his arm, and Bakugo's arm, and is now crushed. Based on what we're seeing here, he should not be able to use that arm anymore, yet alone his hand. I was actually thinking, oh shit, when he grabbed it, is he going to rip it off? And no, he didn't. He just squeezed and damaged his arm. Now, knowing the show, he's probably going to still be able to use it, but when he did toss Bakugo away, he kind of rolled around, and the arm, you can clearly see, it was still deformed. And so I was actually happy about that. I'm actually happy to see that it stuck to being a deformed shape instead of just, hey, look, his arm's fine. So good on the animators for that. But he does toss him away, and then of course the other heroes are jumping in, trying to go and save Bakugo, and they said that getting to close combat with him would be the greatest thing, because this growth, that's spreading out, but he can't use quirks. So if they can get close and destroy him up close, they can kill him. But again, Tomura has tricks up his sleeve, and he is able to use his growth to, nullify any attacks coming at him. We see the impact here. Oddly enough, the growth just kind of disappeared and then became small, but in close proximity to his body, the heroes attacking him, Edgeshot, Mirko, and Best Jeanist, they all suffer I guess you can say a force attack, a wave of force that blows them away, that is supposedly as strong as All Might's fists. Like, straight up, he states that a attack as strong as All Might's. And so they get blown away, and the end result is now they are down for the count. You can see Best Jeanist is actually trying to get up a little bit, but it doesn't look like Mirko and Edgeshot are, especially Edgeshot, considering he's back to his human form. They were blown away completely, and Bakugo is now in disbelief, and he's like, is he really that far away from me? Stating that is the distance between his skill, his power, that great from Tomura's? And Tomura does state that he thinks that Bakugo is amazing. He is the next best hero that he is keeping his eye on. However, that is only because Bakugo is the best friend of Deku. And that just shows here that Deku is still flying. This is how the episode ended. He is still flying across the ocean to try and get back to the coffin in the sky. And it is exactly what Tomura wants. He wants Deku to come to him. And now that he has defeated the other heroes, there's nothing stopping him from trying to escape the coffin and taking Deku's quirk. At least that's what I felt at the end of this episode. Overall, I thought to myself, it's not the end of the world here. Obviously, the heroes are still going to get up. I don't believe that the wave, as strong as All Might, is going to, keep Mirko or Best Jeanist and Deadshot down. Those three are just too strong to be knocked down by a wave, a shock wave. There's just no way. So they're going to get up. As we saw, Sun Eater only got whacked by the growth. Same thing with Neji. I don't think they're down, but we don't see them come back into action. So for all we know, they are down for the count, and the heroes are totally lost here. And the only heroes remaining are now Manuel, Phantom Thief, Eraserhead, and Mandalay on the outside. And then obviously all the support on the inside, keeping the coffin in the sky alive. So, overall, again, a lot of redundant scenes in this episode. I wasn't appreciative of that. And I will have to say this is probably my least favorite episode, as I mentioned before. I wasn't as excited throughout the entire episode. Like, I was excited to start watching because obviously it was a total 2 weeks since the last episode, but I was not as excited to keep watching as I was in the past episodes. I didn't feel like I needed to know I feel like, what's going to happen next, and so I was a little disappointed. The energy just kind of left. Just too many either plot conveniences or there's no way that the hero's gonna die. Oh, great, okay, heroes aren't dead, villains aren't gonna die. What is the point of these episodes if nothing really happens? In the end, the heroes just got their butts kicked, and the villains now have aces up their sleeves that they're going to just start showing off in the next episode. Obviously, Tomura has beaten the heroes there, so he's going to now rebel, and I'm assuming he's going to break out of the coffin, and then of course All For One use the Eri injection thing, and he's most likely going to regenerate his former body back to where he was. Therefore, he's going to now escape and actually kick everyone's butt in the Gunga Villa area. And again, all this is happening. We actually have other battlefields that are going on as well, and so next episode, I am actually kind of looking forward to not seeing what happens here as much as I want to know what's happening elsewhere. I want to see what's happening at the same time with Toga and Gravity and Froppy. I want to know what happened there. Obviously, we don't know what happened with Dabi and Shoto because there's this little light that came from Dabi's chest. We don't know what that was. But again, another ace up the sleeve that he's probably going to bring out a trump card. And, if that's the case, I'm going to be disappointed because I thought Shoto defeating Dabi the way he did was perfect. And if you ruin that by bringing Dabi back just like that, I'm going to be very disappointed. I thought it was a really cool scene. I thought it was a very cool brother versus brother moment. And then all of a sudden, you're just going to pull something out of your ass and just say, boom, Dabi's perfect, he's fine, and he will beat everybody again. The villains are going to win this area. I don't want to see that, but I do want to know what happens. But overall, so far the show is pretty good. Again, I don't know if I mentioned in the beginning of this video, but we did have a new opening and a new ending credits. So that's kind of cool. At the same time, it's not. I actually like the ending of the first half of the season. I thought it was a really cool song. But the scenes from this opening and ending, I don't know about the opening as much, but from the ending, I actually like this ending's credits scenes. I actually thought the pictures and animations were really well done, but I'll get into that in a different video. Maybe I'll talk about that towards the end. I'll talk about the opening credits and the ending credits all together throughout the season. But overall, this episode, I'm going to have to give this one like a 4, unfortunately. That's my rating for this episode. 4 out of 10. On my scale, that is literally below average. 5 is average. So 4 is just below average. It could have been better. I think they didn't need to show off all the things that weren't necessary. Like dragging Alpha-One on the ground was unnecessary. Basically showing off the Quirks rebelling was unnecessary because he was still able to do everything that he did before, just after the mask got broken. But had he just, as we saw, if he just ate the rebellion Quirks, it wouldn't have mattered, right? His mask would still be intact. He'd be powerful. He'd be great. So I don't know about that. I thought it was a little unnecessary, but again, it's just plot conveniences, things like that, and that's where plot conveniences get in the way of having a good time with the show. I want to see the heroes suffer because I don't want to see everyone survive. I've mentioned in the past, just like the final Naruto arc in Shippuden, only 1 or 2 people died. Let's see, who died? I know. So obviously Neji died. We all know that Neji died. And then of course Obito died, but he wasn't really a good guy, right? So no one really dies, right? All the main characters survive, and it sucks. We want to see the tension, and I didn't get any of that. I didn't get any tension from this episode. Going off from last episode, I really thought Earphone Jack was wounded. I thought she was out of the fight. She lost one of her ears, which is, her whole quirk is based on her ears, and she lost half of it. So I really thought she was going to die, or even Tsukuyomi, Hawks, and nope, everyone's still alive. So we'll see what happens going forward. Coffin this guy, I love the scenes a little bit, here and there, but again, when you show off with Nejire and Sun Eater just being whacked away and then forgotten, kind of ruins it, because they didn't get hit hard, but they're out for the fight, I guess. And then of course Mirko can't do anything now. Edgeshot can slice the things, but he can't do anything. And Best Genius is honestly not doing anything at all. He's just kind of coordinating his plans with everyone else. So it's a little lackluster as far as the action amongst these two groups now. So I do want to see the fights from other locations if we can. Even though I did mention before that I didn't want to see multiple locations all at once. However, the anime had already shown the other locations happening at the same time. So I want to see what happens with those guys now. Because now that we've had time pass, we need to see, okay, what's happening at the exact same time. Because Deku left. Deku left the aquarium. So what is happening at the aquarium now that he's gone? He's probably halfway between the Coffin in the Sky and the aquarium as of this episode, right? So next episode should focus on the aquarium, what's happening there, and what's happening with Toga, Froppy, and Gravity. And then I would like to see what's happening with Pinky and her, internal feud with that one villain who supposedly killed Midnight. I want to know what happens there, because they made a point to show her face that she got really upset. Like, you were the one who killed my sensei. Like, I want to see what happens there. Especially since that location got very few minutes of screen time. I want to see what happens with those guys, especially since some of those heroes that are over there are kind of more important than others around the battlefields. So we'll see. But overall, yeah, like I said, 4 out of 10 for this episode. Not the best, but it was still good. It was still a decent watch. And overall, I can't wait for next week, because now I really want to know what happens to all these heroes. And if we do resume with the Coffin in the Sky, I really do want to know what happens there, because again, if you guys have been watching my videos, you guys know that Mirko is my favorite hero in the entire show. Bakugo, my favorite character in the show. So I do want to know what happens to this location specifically. Obviously, Deku's going there as well. But yeah, overall, that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this well, not little, because again, we're approaching that hour mark. These reviews getting longer. I know I digress, from time to time, but just trying to get all my thoughts out. Again, I have no one to really talk to. I'm on my own here. My brother's not watching with me, and he hasn't watched anything. I know I have another friend. She hasn't said that she's watched any of these as well. So I'm not sure who to talk to. So I'm just trying to get out all my thoughts and my opinions right now in the moment while I have the episodes fresh in my mind. Obviously, I'm going to go look back. I might even rewatch them with my brother when he eventually watches, and we can discuss at that point too. And I'll have more knowledge going, in retrospect, about those scenes. And maybe like, oh, hey, that makes sense now. But as of right now, I'm kind of like in the dark. So I'm just trying to get my thoughts out. What am I thinking now in this moment? And, what am I seeing in the moment? So that's just me rambling again. But let me know in the comment section down below if you guys agree with what I'm saying, disagree. Obviously I don't read the manga, but do you guys know something that I don't? Maybe there's something I missed. Explain to me what I've missed. Is some things important or some things not important? Let me know. It helps me, and then we can talk about it. I like to discuss stuff. But for now, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hit the like button if you did. Like I said, comment down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And, stay tuned for the next episode. Next week, it should be continuing. So, next week, another episode 11. As well as other content that I put out. Again, if you guys missed it at the beginning of this video, I made a community post stating what I'm going to be doing, or what going forward through the next month probably. And if not, then, catch you guys in the next one. Hope you guys have a great day. Stay tuned for that. And see you then. Bye-bye.